And C-3PO is saying, surrender is a perfectly acceptable option under these circumstances.
Welcome to Oregon Law Lab. Today we have my colleague, Jen Reynolds.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome back. And a very special guest, Noam Ebner.
Hey, everyone.
To talk about Star Wars and negotiation.
So if you think about conflict as the clash between what I want and what you want, then you could actually think about the way you deal with conflict on a graph. So people who've looked at conflict management in this way have come up with 4 different conflict management styles, well, actually 5, because the graph format gives you a sense of different areas. Okay. And competing is high on getting your own needs met, low on getting someone else's needs met, and it's the sort of the person who wants to win. Oh. Lawyers on TV, really strong-willed personalities, people who are going to fight. They don't really care if they hurt other people along the way or they destroy their relationships. Anakin is the perfect example of this tendency. From a very young age, for those of you who know the prequels, he was an extremely competitive boy. He met with the council and he thought he was going to be made a master. He was very upset when he was not made a master because he had this sort of competitive notion that, you know, I deserve for this to be happening for me. And
just the way he can't hear something without trying to one-up it.
He becomes Darth Vader. Spoiler alert. If anybody is in his way, he mows them down. He finds people's lack of faith, for example, disturbing. He force chokes people.
He can even force choke via video conference.
Oh, that's right.
I have a compilation of all of his force chokes.
You do?
Yeah, so I think that there's someone else who's very, very competitive in the films, and that is R2-D2. R2-D2, you'll notice, he's or she, of course, is a stubborn little droid.
Oh, yeah.
There are any number of situations in which R2-D2 comes into conflict with one character or another, often C-3PO, and simply doesn't back down. When R2-D2 is playing that holographic chess with Chewbacca and sees no reason to back down just because he's playing a Wookiee who's, 6 times his size. That is an approach in which you figure, I don't have anything to gain by prolonging this conflict. I'm not going to win this conflict. I will just give the other person what he or she wants, and hope to end it as soon as possible in that way. One standout accommodator from pop culture is Milhouse on The Simpsons, who said about Lisa Simpson, he said, maybe if I'll give her everything she asked for, she'll finally respect me. Easy accommodator is C-3PO, who often accommodates, or is the only character who voices notions of giving up. There's that scene in The Empire Strikes Back when they've just come out of the asteroid field and Star Destroyer is still looking for the Millennium Falcon. Solo's about to do one of his crazy moves, and C-3PO is saying, surrender is a perfectly acceptable option under these circumstances. I'm sure they shut him down. So avoidance is a very human tendency. Every so often there are these fights or conflicts we're in, or where we could either engage with the other party and get into it, or we could just back away and not engage at all, either to avoid losses or just because we don't want the interaction. We don't want to be in that conflict, so we step aside.
Of course, the problem with avoiding is that you don't necessarily get your own needs met, and that's why on the graph, avoiding is in the low on meeting your own needs and low on meeting the other's needs.
Sounds like it's not that good.
No, it can be very good. They can all be very good. It just depends on the situation. The avoider that I picked was Han Solo. When given the opportunity to join the Resistance, he does not. He prefers to take the reward. The other way I think you might think of him as an avoider is this whole shooting Greedo first. So this is, of course, a matter of great controversy since it got changed.
You had to go there.
The later edits. But the original Star Wars had Han Solo meeting with Greedo and then shooting him secretly when he didn't know it was coming under the table. And this desire to sort of preemptively destroy your opponent, I think, is again an avoidant strategy, because it's this desire just to sort of forestall conflict. To sort of complete this picture, he's a good example of the fluidity of conflict management styles, because even though he starts very avoiding, he comes back and saves the day in Star Wars. And in the 7th movie, he confronts his son directly on that catwalk. That's not the kind of behavior an avoider would necessarily take. Now, he may have been avoiding him up till that point.
You do have to avoid a problem for a long time for your son to become
right
Kylo Ren.
Yes, good point. A compromise is the middle ground kind of person, the person that gets some of their needs met and wants to get some of the needs of the other person met. And so the compromising person tends to be very focused on fairness, very focused on reciprocity, that if everybody's going to get some benefit, then everybody should bear some burden. And typically, the result is maybe not something anybody wants, but it's often better than nothing.
The compromiser who I thought about is Jabba the Hutt. So even though generally Jabba the Hutt, he's fairly competitive. He refuses to bargain over his favorite piece of artwork, and if he doesn't like you, he will have you encased in carbonite or send a bounty hunter after you. But when there's a situation in which he realizes that he can't get everything he wants, he is quick to jump to compromise. But cooperation is a mode of action or thinking or strategy in which we seek to get everything that we need without denying the other person everything that they need. And often the road to getting everything that we need is by helping the other party to get everything that they need. The most cooperative figure in Star Wars is Finn. Finn, you'll notice, hardly ever does anything on his own. When we first meet him, suddenly come to this realization that he wants to escape the Empire. So his first action is to find someone to collaborate with. He works a deal with Poe. I'm going to save you from here, and you're going to get us off this ship.
My cooperator is Princess Leia, and they have their backs against the wall. He blows out the side of the Death Star, and they jump into the crash compactor. So, she has this sort of way of thinking about the problem a little bit from a different angle. He is never the sort to kind of cut anyone out. So when Poe makes his terrible decision at the beginning of The Last Jedi, she gets upset with him, and he gets in trouble, but he's not excluded. And I think that's part of the reason she's so well respected by the people who report to her and to everybody in the Alliance.
Right, and that also brings home a truth about cooperation, is that sometimes in order to get people to cooperate with you, it's not just about asking them nicely. Sometimes you might have to use, let's say, competitive tactics. Before she was able to re-include him, she shot him. So that was the way to get him back to the table so she could reintegrate him into the team.